Step away from the vehicle!
Officer, I am a state attorney.
Step out of the car, please.
I am the state attorney.
Rain struck the pavement like a slow drumbeat as Maya Johnson stood on the curb outside a convenience store, plastic bag in hand, car keys between her fingers. The cruiser pulled up beside her with a sudden bark of sirens. Though she had done nothing but walk, the officer stepped out, pale-faced, square jaw, smirk hidden under the brim of his hat. His flashlight stabbed through the wet air, beam resting on her chest. "Stop right there," he said, voice flat. Maya's throat tightened. She was used to glances, the whispered shift of purses in elevators, but this was different. This was performance. His body angled so passers-by could see, his hand hovering near the holster, as if her grocery bag were contraband. "What's in the bag?" he demanded. "Bread, milk, that's it." The beam lingered, then traveled slowly down to her skin, as though that itself were evidence. A teenage boy across the street lowered his phone, recording. Maya caught the red light blinking and felt her heart lurch. This moment was no longer just hers. The officer leaned closer, lips curling. "Women like you don't get the benefit of doubt." The words sliced through the rain. The boy's camera light reflected off her soaked jacket. Maya inhaled, the air thick with exhaust and humiliation. Behind her, another set of headlights swung into the lot. Doors slammed. More uniforms. Her grip on the keys tightened until metal cut her palm. The world was about to close in. Rain slicked the streets, reflecting neon from the liquor store sign across the road. Maya Johnson shifted the plastic grocery bag in her left hand and unlocked her car with her right, eager to get home. She was halfway into the driver's seat when a sudden strobe of red and blue lights bled across the parking lot. A cruiser rolled up fast, tires hissing against wet asphalt. "Step away from the car," a voice barked. Maya froze. The door remained half open, her body suspended between escape and compliance. She turned slowly. A white officer, mid-40s, stocky build, rested one hand near his holstered weapon, the other gripping a flashlight that cut across her face. "I didn't do anything," she said, her voice steady despite her pulse hammering in her ears. "Step away from the car," he repeated, louder. Rain tapped against metal, a harsh percussion under his words. Maya raised her hands, grocery bag swinging awkwardly. "It's just food. Bread, milk, put it on the hood." She obeyed, the bag crinkling loudly as she set it down. The officer circled her, flashlight dragging over her jacket, jeans, shoes. His silence carried weight, as if her very existence demanded scrutiny. "Where are you coming from?" he asked. "The store. You saw me walk out." "That's so. And why'd you look nervous when you saw me?" "I didn't." He leaned in close, breath sour with coffee. "Don't lie. Eyes don't lie." A voice called from the sidewalk, a teenager holding up a phone. "I'm recording this." The officer shot the boy a glare, then turned back. "Keep your mouth shut, kid." Maya swallowed. Her instinct screamed to explain, to soften her tone, but something inside resisted. She stayed silent. "ID," he demanded. "It's in my purse, on the seat. Get it." Slowly, she moved, every gesture deliberate. Fingers closed on the purse strap, pulled the wallet free. She handed over the license. He studied it with exaggerated care, lips curling. "Maya Johnson. Local address. No record." He paused, then muttered just loud enough for her to hear. "Still doesn't mean innocent." Her jaw clenched. The teenager's camera light blinked. Another car entered the lot, another cruiser. Two more officers stepped out, rain streaking down their jackets. "Back up," Maya whispered. The first officer smirked. "Standard procedure. Can't be too careful." One of the new arrivals, younger, shifted uneasily. "What's the charge?" "Suspicious behavior," the first answered without hesitation. Maya's chest tightened. "Suspicious for buying groceries." "Tone down the attitude," he snapped. "You people always think rules don't apply." The words landed like a slap. Maya inhaled sharply, tasting metal at the back of her throat. She could feel eyes on her, the boy with the phone, passing cars slowing to glance. Her humiliation was now public currency. The officer gestured toward the hood, hands flat. "Spread your feet." "I didn't." "Now." She obeyed, palms cold against wet steel, grocery bag shoved aside. The flashlight beam traced her back. One officer patted her down, another rifled through the bag, pulling out bread, then milk. "Just groceries," he muttered. "Check anyway," the first insisted. The search dragged on, invasive in its futility. Maya closed her eyes, heat rising behind them. She forced herself not to flinch, not to give them satisfaction. Nothing, the younger officer said finally, voice low. The leader's jaw tightened. He turned her license in his hand, then held it up like evidence. Doesn't add up. Why'd you look nervous? Why'd you avoid eye contact? Maya's voice broke through the rain, sharper than she intended. Because men with guns keep surrounding me. A tense silence. The teenager's phone caught every word. The officer stepped closer, lips near her ear. Careful. Attitude gets you arrested. Her breath caught. Keys dug into her palm, clenched tight. And then the sound of more doors slamming shut. More uniforms approaching through the rain. The world was closing in again. The station smelled of bleach and stale coffee. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, buzzing like an insect trapped in her skull. Maya sat rigid on a metal bench against the wall, wrists free but dignity bound, tighter than any cuffs could hold. The officer from the parking lot badge. Reading M. Danner slouched at a desk across the room. His chair creaked as he typed, fingers moving lazily over the keyboard. Every so often, he glanced at her, then back at the screen, lips curling in satisfaction. Suspicious behavior, he muttered aloud, narrating for the report, resisted initial commands, appeared agitated. Maya's jaw locked. That's not true. You barked orders, and I complied. Danner didn't look up. Agitated, he repeated, striking the keys harder this time. Another officer, younger, hovered nearby with a clipboard. His expression carried unease, but he scribbled down what Danner said without objection. Maya leaned forward. You're fabricating. Danner chuckled under his breath. Lady, the paper speaks louder than you. You should know that. The younger officer shifted. Sir, the video. Danner's glare sliced through him. Chain of custody. We'll see if that phone even makes it here. Silence stretched. Rain pattered faintly against the high windows. Maya folded her hands tightly, nails digging crescents into her skin. Her mind recorded everything, time, gestures, words, as if each detail were a deposition she would file later. Any priors? The younger officer asked. None worth noting, Danner said, typing anyway. Marked hostile during encounter. Potential threat level elevated. Maya's chest rose sharply. You can't put that. Danner smirked at the screen. I just did. He clicked save with exaggerated force. The printer word, spitting out the pages like a verdict already sealed. He tore them free and slapped them onto the clipboard. Sign here. Confirming processing, Danner ordered. Maya stared. I will not sign lies. He shrugged. Then, it goes in unsigned. Makes no difference. Your word against ours. The indifference in his tone cut deeper than rage. He didn't need to shout. The system itself shouted for him. Across the room, a man in cuffs, homeless, smelling of damp wool, lifted his head. Don't fight it, miss. They always write the story before you walk in. Danner shot him a look, but the man dropped his gaze back to the floor. Maya inhaled slowly, steadying her hands. Her silence became her weapon. She would not feed his performance with more words. Still, he pressed on, circling her like a wolf testing a fence. Funny thing, you people always cry foul after the fact. But in here, it's our word. She lifted her eyes to meet his. For the first time, he faltered. Just for a beat, his gaze wavered, caught by the steadiness in hers. Then the printer word again, spitting duplicate copies. He gathered them, stapled with a crack. You'll cool off in holding. Judge will toss it later. Until then, lesson learned. The younger officer cleared his throat. Shouldn't we already logged? Danner cut him off. Case closed for the night. Maya rose as another officer gestured toward the holding cells. The corridor smelled of disinfectant, masking, mildew. Each step echoed, hollow and sharp, like a gavel striking marble. Behind her, Danner's voice drifted across the room. Smug, careless. One day they'll understand. Compliance saves trouble. Maya's spine stiffened. The words lodged deep, not as warning but as challenge. The cell door clanged shut. The metal bench inside was cold, the walls pale green, paint peeling at the corners. She sat, back straight, eyes unblinking. Voices drifted from neighboring cells. What did they get you for? A man asked, voice muffled by concrete. Existing, Maya answered, a dry laugh. That's the oldest crime. Silence followed. The hum of lights pressed down. The night stretched long, and though her body ached, Maya's mind refused to fold. She replayed every second, the flashlight, the bag on the hood, the words typed into that report, each detail sharpened like a blade she would one day draw. But for now, she sat in stillness, the lie of resisting arrest inked onto official paper, her truth, stripped down to silence, waited for the moment it could break free. The clang of keys broke the silence. Maya stirred from her rigid seat on the narrow bench, stiff muscles protesting. The cell door screeched open. A desk sergeant with a sagging face and nicotine-stained fingers gestured lazily. "You're free to go." Maya blinked. "What about the charges?" "Dismissed. Paperwork says misunderstanding." He didn't meet her eyes. "Happens all the time." Her throat tightened. "Happens all the time." As if wrongful detention were routine. A clerical hiccup. Nothing more. She stepped into the corridor, the concrete walls pressing close. Officer Danner leaned against the counter by the exit, arms folded. His smirk lingered like stale smoke. "Told you it wouldn't stick," he said. "You get to walk home. No harm, no foul." Maya's hands curled into fists. "You humiliated me. Lied on record. That isn't no harm." His eyes narrowed. "Watch your tone. You're lucky we cut you loose." The sergeant shoved a clipboard across the counter. "Sign for your property." Her purse, keys, and grocery bag sat in a plastic tub. The bread was crushed flat, milk warm to the touch. She signed without a word. As she reached for her license, Danner leaned closer, voice low. "Remember this. Next time, compliance might save you." The sentence dripped with warning, as though her very resistance had invited punishment. A man from the holding cells shuffled past, wrists chained. He muttered under his breath, "Just loud enough for her. They'll never put it in the record, sister." But the street saw. Maya caught the meaning. The teenager's phone, the blinking red light. Evidence lived beyond these walls. She walked out into the night. Rain had stopped, leaving the pavement slick and shining beneath. Cars hissed by, indifferent to her ordeal. Outside the precinct, she paused. The city seemed quieter, but the silence carried weight. The silence of bystanders, the silence of officials who would never see her as more than a problem to process. She unlocked her car, slid into the driver's seat. Her reflection in the window startled her, damp hair plastered to her face, eyes fierce and unyielding. She whispered into the empty car, words shaping themselves like an oath. "This is not the end." The clock on her dashboard ticked past midnight. She drove slowly, every headlight in the mirror raising her pulse. At a stoplight, two men on the corner glanced in her direction. One spat, the other looked away. No words, but the meaning was the same. Her existence contested, her presence judged. Maya's grip on the wheel tightened. She would not cry. Not here. By the time she reached her apartment, exhaustion pulled at her bones. She set the ruined bread and souring milk on the counter, untouched. Her phone buzzed. A message lit the screen. The video's online. Her breath caught. The teenager, the red blinking light, proof. She opened the link. There it was, her body pinned against the hood. Danner's voice sharp, his words unambiguous. The clip ended with the command to spread her feet. Her humiliation broadcast to strangers. Her dignity violated twice, once in the parking lot, again on the screen. But within the comments, a pulse of outrage burned. "This is wrong. They had no cause. She did nothing." The world had seen. Bafma closed her eyes. For tonight, release meant freedom in name only. The system had chewed her, spat her out, and marked her as a warning. Yet beneath the exhaustion, a flame remained. This release was not an ending. It was a beginning. Maya barely slept. Morning sunlight leaked through half-closed blinds, sharp and accusing. Her phone wouldn't stop. Buzzing calls, texts, notifications from numbers she didn't recognize. The video had moved faster than she imagined. She sat at her kitchen table, untouched coffee cooling by her hand, eyes fixed on the screen. The clip looped again, her pressed against the hood. Officer Danner's words, crisp, undeniable. Each replay twisted her stomach. Yet, she couldn't look away. A message came through from her closest friend, Lena. "Saw the video. Where are you? Talk to me." Maya typed back only 2 words. Community center. The center's lobby smelled faintly of old wood and floor polish. Flyers crowded the bulletin board. Eviction clinics, protest schedules, voter registration drives. Conversations hushed when Maya walked in. Eyes followed her. Recognition spread, not of her title, not yet, but of the woman humiliated under flashing lights. Lena rushed forward, hugging her tight. "You're okay." Maya nodded, stiff but steady. "You don't look okay," Lena whispered, pulling back. "They put you through hell." Across the room, Pastor Ellis, graying at the temples, set down his coffee. "Come sit. We need to talk." They gathered around a folding table. Lena, Pastor Ellis, a local journalist named Kareem, and 2 neighborhood organizers Maya had worked with years ago, back when she was still just another volunteer lawyer showing up on weekends. Kareem tapped his phone screen. The video's already at 50,000 views. People are angry, but the department's already spinning it. Routine stop, uncooperative suspect, you know the drill. Suspect. Maya's voice sharpened. I bought groceries. That's all they need, Pastor Ellis said quietly. Their story hits the news before yours does. Always has. Lena leaned forward. But this time, we have proof. That kid filmed everything. It can't just disappear. Kareem shook his head. Proof is step 1. Step 2 is narrative. They'll drown the clip in commentary, strip it of context, make you look like the problem. Maya's chest tightened. She knew he was right. The younger organizer, Aisha, slammed her hand on the table. Then we get louder, protests, petitions, whatever it takes. We put his words on every screen. Women like you don't get the benefit of doubt. That line should haunt him. The older organizer, David, frowned. But if we go loud, they'll come after her harder. Look how quick they released her because they didn't want her name on the books. They'll smear her if she pushes back. Maya finally spoke, her tone measured. That's why my name doesn't matter yet. This can't just be my story. It has to be about what they do to all of us. If I become the focus, they'll paint me as exceptional, or hysterical, or dangerous. I want this to stand as what it was, a routine abuse of power. Lena stared at her. You can't carry this alone. Maya met her eyes. I'm not. That's why I'm here. The table fell silent. Karine leaned back, studying her carefully. You're holding back something. I can feel it. Who you are, what you do. You're not just another woman on the street. Maya's gaze hardened. Not yet. The truth has its time. For now, let them underestimate me. The meeting stretched into the afternoon. They mapped strategies, reaching out to civil rights attorneys, rallying allies in city council, pushing media outlets to air the raw footage without edits. Every suggestion sparked debate, fear balanced against anger, hope weighed against exhaustion. At one point, Aisha turned to Maya, voice fierce. When he pressed you against that car, when he said what he said, did you feel scared? Maya's answer was simple. Yes, and furious. Aisha nodded, tears bright in her eyes. Then we fight with that. Later, walking home, Maya felt the weight of whispers around her. Neighbors who once waved casually now paused mid-step, staring. A man at the corner store muttered, "That's her," as she passed. She was no longer anonymous. She was evidence. At her apartment, she sank into the couch. Her phone buzzed again, another flood of notifications. Among them, a voicemail from an unknown number. She pressed play. A measured voice spoke. Ms. Johnson. This is Detective Ruiz. Internal Affairs. We'd like to discuss your experience with Officer Daner. Call me back when convenient. Maya froze. Internal Affairs was circling already, not for justice, but to protect themselves. She replayed the message, listening to the calm, professional tone. Each syllable sounded less like an invitation than a warning. We're watching. Don't move out of line. She let the phone drop to the cushion. Her reflection in the darkened window stared back, eyes tired, mouth firm, posture unbroken. The voices of her allies echoed in her mind. Proof is step 1. Narrative is step 2. She whispered to herself, almost like prayer. Let them write their story. I'll write mine louder. The night pressed close around her, city lights flickering against the glass. Maya knew the cost of what lay ahead. The smear campaigns, the threats, the dragging of her name through mud. But she also knew this. Silence was no longer an option. The news cycle devoured the video like fire on dry grass. By noon the next day, it wasn't just a clip on social media, it was a headline. Routine stop sparks outrage. Officers' words raise questions of bias. Viral video divides city. Maya sat in her living room, television muted, watching her own humiliation replayed across every channel. Each time, the same freeze frame. Her hands splayed against the hood. Danner's face looming, lips caught mid-snarl. Her phone rang nonstop. Unknown numbers, reporters, advocacy groups, friends she hadn't spoken to in years. She let them go to voicemail. Silence stretching between buzzes. Then Lena burst through her apartment door without knocking, breathless. It's everywhere. Maya, do you understand? They can't bury this one. Maya muted the TV fully, turning to her friend. They'll try. They already are. Lena shot back, dropping her bag on the counter. Look. She pulled up a live stream on her phone. Officer Danner sat stiff in a studio chair, badge glinting, voice smooth and practiced. I followed protocol, he said to the anchor. The individual was uncooperative, refused clear commands. My priority is public safety. The anchor leaned forward. What about the line, women like you don't get the benefit of doubt? Many call that racist. Danner didn't flinch. Out of context, I meant anyone acting suspicious can't expect exceptions. We treat everyone the same. Maya felt her pulse quicken, a heat rising in her chest. Everyone the same, she repeated under her breath. Lena's eyes flashed. He's twisting it. He's confident. Look at him like he knows nothing will touch him. The anchor pressed again. So you stand by your actions. Danner's lips curled in that same smirk Maya remembered from the station. Absolutely. I did my job. End of story. Lena lowered the phone, fury in her voice. He's doubling down. Maya rose, pacing the small living room. The walls felt tight, closing in with every word of his televised defense. She could hear echoes of him in the parking lot, smell the rain, feel the metal of the hood beneath her palms. He's not just defending himself, she said quietly. He's defending the system that protects him. He knows it will hold. Lena crossed her arms. So we break it. That evening, the community center overflowed. Chairs scraped, voices filled the hall. Organizers, students, parents, even strangers who had never attended a meeting before, all drawn by the video. Kareem, the journalist, set up his camera at the back. Aisha handed out flyers. Pastor Ellis tapped the microphone, calling the room to order. This city has seen another injustice, he began, voice steady, solemn. And thanks to the bravery of a young witness, the world has seen it too. Tonight we decide how we answer. Hands shot up. We march, we demand the chief's resignation. We flood the council chambers until they listen. Maya listened, silent at first, absorbing the current of outrage. Every voice carried pain, anger, exhaustion, sharpened into purpose. Finally she stood. The room quieted, eyes locking on her. I am the woman in that video, she said. The words fell heavy, undeniable. A ripple went through the crowd. I was stopped for buying groceries, humiliated without cause, lied about in reports, and now, you hear him, he insists it was protocol. Murmurs surged, low and furious. Maya continued, her voice clear, unshaking. This is not new. What happened to me happens every day in different forms, to different people who don't get cameras to prove it. The video is not a revelation, it is a mirror. Applause rose, sharp and thunderous. Lena caught Maya's eye, nodding, tears threatening. Pastor Ellis lifted his hand for silence. Sister, what do you ask of us? Maya inhaled, then spoke. Keep the pressure. Don't let their version overwrite the truth. His words must not fade into spin. Women like you don't get the benefit of doubt. That line reveals everything. Put it where no one can ignore it. Aisha leapt up, fist raised. We'll plaster it across the city. Billboards, flyers, posts. His own words will be the protest sign. The crowd roared in agreement. 2 days later, the city was covered. Posters on lampposts, murals on brick walls, banners from dorm windows, all stamped with the officer's line in bold black letters. Women like you don't get the benefit of doubt. On the evening news, anchors debated. Is this harassment of a public servant, or is this accountability? Doesn't the phrase speak for itself? Meanwhile, the police union released a statement. We stand by Officer Danner. He followed standard procedures and has become the target of an unfair smear campaign. Maya read it aloud to Lena and Kareem in her living room, her tone bitter. Unfair smear campaign, that's what they call being held to account. Kareem adjusted his camera tripod. Then we give them more they can't spin. Every statement, every report, I'll publish it all. Maya nodded. Inside, anger and resolve fused into something sharper, strategy. That night, she scrolled through comments under the video. Some messages burned with support, others dripped with venom. She should have listened. Always playing the race card. This is why we can't trust the media. The bile of strangers stung, but she refused to look away. Every denial only confirmed the truth. People would protect the lie because the lie protected them. She closed the phone, sat in silence. For the first time since the stop, she let herself cry, not for herself alone, but for every unseen, unrecorded moment like hers, every story that never reached the light. And when the tears were gone, only steel remained. The footage had spread, but the fight was just beginning. The city had reached a fever pitch. Posters bled across brick walls. Protests filled sidewalks. Council inboxes overflowed with messages demanding action. Yet Officer Danner still stood firm, smug behind the shield of the police union, his face on every channel, insisting he had nothing to apologize for. Maya knew the time for silence was ending. She sat in Lena's kitchen with the blinds drawn. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound until Lena broke it. They're asking for your name. Every reporter, every organizer. They want the woman in the video to stand beside them. Maya clasped her hands, knuckles white. If I step forward as just Maya Johnson, they'll shred me. If I step forward as more than that, her voice trailed off. Lena leaned in. As who? Maya's eyes met hers, steady, unblinking. As the Attorney General. The words hung in the air, electric, almost unreal. Lena sat back hard against her chair. You, she stopped, swallowed, tried again. Maya, do you hear yourself? That's not just a reveal. That's an earthquake, I know. They'll call it manipulation. A setup. They'll say you staged it. I know they'll go for blood. Maya's jaw tightened. They already have. Later that evening, the core group gathered at the community center. Lena, Pastorelis, Karim, Isa David. The room buzzed with tension, chairs scraping against the floor. Maya stood at the head of the table. I've held something back from you, she said, voice even but carrying weight. Not because I doubted you, but because timing matters. You deserve the truth before the city hears it. Karim squinted, his journalist's instinct sharp. I knew it. You weren't just another woman on the street. Maya exhaled. My name is Maya Johnson, Attorney General of this state. The silence that followed was suffocating. David's chair creaked as he leaned forward. You're serious? Yes. Lena's hand shook as she pressed it to her forehead. My God. Pastor Ellis broke the quiet first, his voice low but steady. Then they humiliated the highest legal officer in the state, in public, with cameras rolling. Aisha's eyes burned with fire. And if they can do that to you, what does it say for the rest of us? Karim recovered quickly, phone already in hand. This changes everything. A headline writes itself. Attorney General wrongfully detained, profiled on camera. No, Maya cut in sharply. That can't be the headline. Not yet. The group looked at her, puzzled. Maya's tone hardened. If this becomes about me, they'll make it personnel. One exceptional story, one scandal. I don't want this to be another cycle of outrage and denial. I want this to expose the system. That's bigger than my name. But your name gives it power, Lena said, voice trembling. Without it, they'll keep pretending it was just some random encounter. Maya stared at the table, at her own reflection in its scratched surface. I know, which is why I'll use it strategically, not as a shield, as a blade. Karim leaned forward. So when Maya looked up, eyes hard, at the hearing, they're convening oversight next week. I'll testify as the woman in the video and, as the state's attorney general. The timing will strip away their defense. Pastor Ellis nodded slowly. You'll force them to face the truth on record. They won't be able to bury it. David frowned. They'll try to destroy you in the process. They've already tried, Maya replied. That night, walking home, Maya felt the shift in the air. A heaviness lifted, replaced by resolve. She had lived her entire career in balance, walking the line between authority and identity, hiding pieces of herself to survive within institutions built against her. But the balance was over. The city skyline glowed in the distance. Somewhere out there, Danner still believed he was untouchable. She whispered to herself, quiet but fierce, not for long. The following morning, whispers turned into a storm. News leaked someone inside the circle had spoken. Karim's article hit the web first. Attorney General identified as woman in viral police video. Maya's phone exploded with calls from networks, colleagues, the governor's office. Headlines erupted. Pundits shouted on panels. Speculation ran wild. In Lena's apartment, the group watched the coverage unfold. One anchor declared, this revelation changes the stakes dramatically. If even the state's top law officer can be profiled and humiliated, what does that say for ordinary citizens? Another countered, or is this political theater? Did she hold back her identity to maximize impact? Maya sat on the couch, unmoving. The voices swirled, but she heard only the truth beneath them. The mask was off. Lena touched her arm gently. It's out. No turning back now. Maya's eyes stayed fixed on the screen, where the footage played again, her hands against the hood. Danner's sneer immortalized. No, she said quietly. Now we start. The State House hearing chamber smelled faintly of varnished wood and camera lights. Rows of chairs were packed, reporters scribbling, activists clutching signs, officials murmuring in dark suits. The viral video had pulled the whole city into this room, every breath waiting for confrontation. At the long table sat Officer Danner, uniform crisp, jaw set. Beside him, the union representative whispered in his ear, confident and rehearsed. Danner's smirk had returned, the same smirk that haunted Maya's memory. And then, opposite him, Maya entered. Gasps swept through the audience. Cameras clicked in rapid fire. The Attorney General herself, the woman in the viral video, walked slowly to the witness chair. Her posture was upright, measured, but her eyes burned with focus. The chair of the Oversight Committee, Councilwoman Rivera, cleared her throat. We are here today to examine the events of last Friday night, involving Officer Michael Danner and Attorney General Maya Johnson. Danner's head tilted slightly at the title. The smirk faltered, if only for a heartbeat. Rivera gestured. Officer, you will testify first. Danner leaned toward the microphone, voice smooth. I conducted a routine stop in accordance with training. The individual was uncooperative. I followed protocol to ensure safety. My record speaks for itself. A committee member raised an eyebrow, and the statement, "Women like you don't get the benefit of doubt." Danner straightened. Taken out of context, I meant anyone who appeared suspicious at night in a high-risk area. Gender, race. 11 gasps and murmurs rippled through the room. Rivera's eyes narrowed. So you deny racial or gender bias in your statement? Absolutely, Danner replied. This is a smear, a political stunt. The union rep leaned in, nodding approval. Now it was Maya's turn. She adjusted the microphone, her voice steady. I am Maya Johnson, Attorney General, and before I was Attorney General, I was a black woman buying groceries on a rainy night. The chamber fell silent. I complied with every order, she continued, hands visible, bag on the hood, identification offered, yet I was surrounded, humiliated, searched without cause, and then I was told, in front of witnesses, in front of a camera, women like you don't get the benefit of doubt. Her gaze locked on Danner. Those words are not out of context. They are the context. Reporters' pens scratched furiously. Rivera nodded. Please continue. Maya inhaled. The incident did not end with that night. Officer Danner falsified his report. He marked me hostile, resistant, elevated as a potential threat. These lies sit in official records, used every day against countless citizens with less power than me. If this is protocol, then protocol is the problem. The chamber erupted in murmurs again, louder this time. Danner gripped the table. Objection. She's edited. Rivera's gavel struck. This is not a trial. This is oversight. She may speak. Maya turned back to the committee. I withheld my title at first because I wanted the truth to be clear. I was treated not as an attorney general, but as a black woman presumed guilty. If my authority had been known, perhaps I would have been spared. But that is the point. Justice that depends on title is no justice at all. A hush swept over the chamber. Even the union rep shifted uneasily. One council member leaned forward. Attorney General Johnson, are you suggesting this is not an isolated incident? I'm not suggesting, Maya said firmly. I'm stating, the footage that night is one video among thousands never recorded. For every Maya Johnson, there are hundreds of names you will never hear. That is what you are accountable for. The questioning turned sharp. Some members probed for facts, others angled for headlines. Did you resist commands? No. Did you raise your voice? I raised my humanity. Do you believe Officer Danner should be dismissed? I believe accountability is more than one name on a form, but dismissal is the minimum. Danner slammed his hand on the table. This is a witch hunt. The room erupted. Gasps, shouts, flashing cameras. Rivera's gavel cracked like thunder. Order. Maya did not flinch. Her eyes stayed on him, steady, unyielding. During recess, the chamber buzzed. Reporters cornered activists in the hall. Signs waved outside the glass doors. We believe her. Protocol, profiling, accountability. Now, inside, Lena squeezed Maya's hand. You shattered him. Did you see his face? Maya exhaled. This isn't about his face. It's about the system that lets him smirk in the first place. Kareem, recording everything, nodded. Your words will live beyond this room. Maya looked back toward the chamber doors. Then they'd better count. The hearing resumed. Rivera spoke gravely. We will review testimony, reports, and the video. Findings will be published within 2 weeks. Until then, Officer Danner is suspended pending investigation. The gavel struck again. Session adjourned. Reporters swarmed. Attorney General, will you press charges? Do you believe this hearing will change policing in this city? What message do you have for citizens watching? Maya paused on the steps, microphones thrust toward her. Rain misted lightly, as if echoing the night it all began. Her voice carried clear. No title, no badge, no office should shield someone from accountability. What happened to me is happening daily. We can't unsee it now, and we will not look away. The crowd surged with applause, shouts, raised fists across the steps. Danner was hustled out a side door, his smirk gone, his eyes darting against the press of cameras. Maya watched him vanish into the blur of flashing lights. For the first time, he looked small, but inside her, she knew, one man's downfall wasn't enough. The system itself still breathed, and she had only just begun. The city didn't sleep after the hearing. The clip of Maya facing Danner spread across news cycles, commentary panels, and neighborhood screens. Strangers replayed her words on phones in laundromats, buses, subway cars. Some voices praised her as fearless, a reckoning wrapped in authority. Others called her opportunistic, accused her of weaponizing identity for politics. But on the streets, the mood shifted. Protests swelled not just young activists, but parents pushing strollers, elders holding handmade signs, shopkeepers leaving counters to march. Maya's face appeared on posters beside slogans. Justice isn't optional. Inside her office, however, the air was different, cold, calculated. Colleagues who once smiled now spoke in clipped tones. Political aides warned her behind closed doors. You're risking your seat, one advisor said. I'm risking silence, Maya replied. The governor's chief of staff called late into the night. His voice carried the weight of strategy, not conscience. You've put us in a corner. They're circling. Maya, the union, the donors, the old guard, they want your resignation. Maya's fingers dug into the armrest of her chair. Then let them come. If they want me gone, they'll have to do it in daylight. At Lena's apartment, the circle met again. Exhaustion showed in their faces, dark circles under eyes. Voices rough from chanting in the streets. Kareem tossed down his phone, screen glowing with another panel debate. They're splitting it down the middle. Half the pundits calling you a hero, half calling you reckless. David leaned against the wall. That's how power protects itself, turns justice into a controversy. Aisha looked at Maya, almost pleading. Are you safe? Tell me you're at least safe. Maya hesitated before answering. I'm visible, and visibility cuts both ways. The room fell quiet. Outside, sirens echoed faintly. 2 nights later, Maya walked home alone, coat pulled tight against the wind. Streetlights cast long shadows, the city restless beneath them. Her phone buzzed and no number. She answered anyway. A low voice hissed. Step down before you're dragged down. The line went dead. Maya stopped walking, staring at the black screen of her phone. Fear pricked at her spine, but her jaw clenched. This is how they work through intimidation. She resumed walking, faster now. Every footstep behind her sounded louder than it was. The next morning, newspapers carried headlines. Attorney General faces resignation calls amid policing scandal. Union demands AG apology. Is Maya Johnson the face of reform or division? Maya sat in her office, blinds closed. Her deputy knocked softly. Ma'am, the governor wants you on record by end of day. She nodded but didn't move. Her eyes lingered on the pile of letters on her desk, handwritten notes from citizens. One from a mother. My son was stopped walking home from practice. They called him hostile because he asked why. Thank you for saying what I never could. Another, I don't have your title, but I have your skin, and that's enough for them to see me as threat. Keep going. Her chest tightened. She folded the letters carefully, slid them into her bag. That evening, she appeared on the courthouse steps, cameras swarming. The air was electric with expectation. I have been asked if I will resign, she began, voice steady, rain misting her shoulders. I will not, because resignation is silence, and silence is complicity. I was elected to uphold justice. That means naming injustice, even when it stands in uniform, especially then. A murmur rippled through the crowd, swelling into applause. Maya's eyes swept over the cameras. You may question my methods, you may question my timing, but do not question this. Justice belongs to all of us, not just the powerful. I will not step down. I will stand up. The chants began almost instantly. Stand up, stand up. The courthouse steps vibrated with voices. Inside, however, political operatives seethed, deals shifted, alliances broke. Maya knew it. Every word she spoke pushed her closer to the edge. Late that night, in the quiet of Lena's apartment, Maya finally let the weight fall. She sat with her head in her hands, silence thick around her. Lena sat beside her. "You're carrying the whole city, Maya." Maya's voice cracked. "And it's breaking me." Lena placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then let it break. What rises from the pieces will be stronger than what stood before." Maya lifted her head slowly, eyes raw but burning. "Then we finish what we started." The committee chamber filled again, 2 weeks after the explosive hearing. This time, the crowd was larger, angrier, electric with anticipation. The findings were set to be read. Reporters lined the aisles, their lenses pointed like rifles. Protesters' chants seeped through the walls outside, pulsing like a heartbeat. No justice, no peace. Maya sat at the front row, her expression carved from stone. Lena beside her, Kareem clutching a notepad, Pastor Ellis whispering a prayer under his breath. Across the aisle sat Danner, still in uniform but visibly worn, eyes bloodshot, jaw twitching with suppressed rage. Councilwoman Rivera lifted the gavel. "This oversight committee has reviewed the testimony, the video evidence, and corroborating reports. We find substantial misconduct by Officer Michael Danner." The room erupted in gasps and shouts. Rivera raised her voice. "We recommend immediate termination from the police force and referral for federal civil rights investigation." The gavel struck. Final. Danner shot to his feet. "This is political theater. I served 20 years. Security moved swiftly, escorting him toward the exit as his voice cracked into fury. Cameras followed, flashes stuttering across his collapsing image. Maya didn't move, didn't blink. Her body was still, but inside, a storm raged, vindication tangled with exhaustion, triumph threaded with grief. Reporters surged. "Attorney General Johnson, do you consider this justice? Is termination enough? What happens now?" Maya stepped to the microphone. Her voice was steady, but it carried the weariness of every sleepless night leading to this moment. "This decision is a beginning, not an end. Accountability is not punishment of one man, it is reform of a system. Today, one officer was held to account. Tomorrow, we must hold the structure that enabled him." The crowd outside roared approval, yet Maya felt the hollowness in her chest. That night, she walked alone through the city streets. Billboards flickered her face, posters plastered her name. Strangers stopped her, some with gratitude, some with suspicion. A young man stepped forward from the crowd, his voice trembling. "Because of you, I feel seen." Maya placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't let them turn this into my story. Make it yours." But not all voices were supportive. The governor's statement aired that evening. "While we respect the committee's decision, we remind all leaders to temper justice with unity. Division helps no one." Maya turned off the television. Unity was a word too often weaponized against the truth. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lena. "You did it, but take care of yourself." Maya set the phone down, staring at the darkness of her apartment. For the first time since the night of the arrest, silence pressed in heavy, suffocating. A week later, Danner appeared on a fringe news program, railing against corrupt elites and race-baiting politicians. His career in uniform was over, but his defiance smoldered in new spaces. Maya watched only a minute before shutting it off. She knew this was the cycle. Institutions discarding individuals but leaving the rot intact. She sat at her desk, pen hovering over fresh legislation drafts, stronger oversight boards, body cameras with public access, independent prosecutors for police misconduct. Each word on the page a brick in the foundation of something sturdier than one verdict. But her hand trembled. The exhaustion was bone deep, the scars invisible, but sharp. Lena visited one evening, finding Maya sitting in the half-dark, papers spread but untouched. "You can't burn yourself down to light this fire," Lena said softly. Maya looked up, eyes tired but steady. "The fire isn't mine anymore. It's out there, in the streets, in their voices. I just had to spark it." At a rally weeks later, Maya stood on the steps again, this time not at the center, but among the people. Youth leaders took the microphone. Community mothers spoke. Survivors of profiling shared stories. Maya clapped and listened, her presence a shadow rather than a spotlight. Someone recognized her in the crowd, shouted her name. Applause spread, but she shook her head gently, stepping back. This wasn't about her anymore. That night, walking home beneath the streetlights, the city felt different. Not healed, never healed, but aware. alert, awake. Maya inhaled the cool air. The same streets where humiliation once pressed her face to cold metal. Now, those same streets carried chants, footsteps, a movement larger than her title, larger than one verdict. She whispered into the night. Not for cameras, not for microphones, but for herself. Justice doesn't end. It begins again. The winter wind cut sharp through the city, but the square was alive with bodies, banners, and voices. Months had passed since the committee's judgment, yet the protests hadn't vanished. They had evolved. What began as outrage over Maya's arrest had become a citywide movement, calls for systemic change echoing from schools, churches, and courthouse steps. Maya stood on the edge of the crowd, coat collar pulled high, blending among the people. No podium today, no cameras waiting. She wasn't here as Attorney General, but as Maya Johnson, a woman who had been forced against cold steel under the glare of police lights. On stage, a young organizer lifted the mic, barely 20. His voice cracked with both nerves and conviction. They thought this was about one woman. They thought this was about one officer. But this is about all of us. The crowd thundered back, fists raised. Maya felt the vibration of it in her chest, like the ground itself was moving. Later, in her office, the cost of it all came back into focus. Her inbox was stacked with legal drafts, policy memos, furious letters from political rivals. Some days, allies avoided eye contact in the halls. Some nights, she slept only 2 hours. The governor still pressed for her resignation quietly. Backroom whispers sharpened into threats. Donors leaned on her to soften her stance. But every time Maya considered the weight of retreat, she thought of the letters she'd tucked into her bag. Mothers thanking her, children drawing pictures of her in a cape, elders saying simply, "We are proud." She drew strength from them the way others drew breath. One evening Lena sat across from her in the kitchen, steam rising from mugs of tea. "You've changed," Lena said gently. Maya raised an eyebrow. "How so? You don't hide anymore. You used to shrink just a little in certain rooms. Now you take the whole air with you." Maya stared into her cup, the tea swirling like dark glass. "It's not courage, Lena. It's necessity. The night he pressed me against that hood, I thought, this is how they want me. Small, afraid, disposable, and I realized I'd rather burn everything than stay that way." Lena reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Then burn, but don't burn alone." The news cycle shifted, as it always did, but the wound remained. Communities began forming civilian boards. New oversight proposals moved through legislature, and whispers of national reform stirred. Maya was pulled into interviews, panels, endless debates, but the real victories weren't in the headlines. They were in the faces of people who no longer felt invisible. At a community forum, a mother spoke through tears. "My boy came home last week, stopped by the police, but they didn't rough him up. They let him walk. I don't know if that's because of you, but I think it is." Maya only nodded, swallowing the knot in her throat. Still, the scars remained. Some nights she woke with the memory of Danner's hand gripping her arm, the metallic taste of fear in her mouth. Trauma doesn't vanish. It carves. But each day, she learned to carry it differently. The union filed appeal after appeal, fighting to restore Danner's badge, but courts upheld his dismissal. Eventually, the federal investigation began. Maya didn't celebrate. It was never about one man. It was about dismantling the arrogance that shielded him. And yet, the day she read the official notice, she sat quietly at her desk, eyes closed. Not triumph, just breath. Months later, at a small church in the heart of the city, Pastor Ellis invited her to speak at a gathering. She hesitated, then stepped to the pulpit. No cameras, no reporters, just families, elders, and children. "I wish I could tell you justice is finished," she said softly. "But justice is never finished. It is work. It is weight. It is wounds carried and healed and carried again." That night, I was humiliated. But humiliation is not the end. It is the soil where resilience grows. The room was silent, reverent. A little girl in the front row whispered to her mother, "She's brave." Maya smiled faintly. Not brave, just unwilling to be broken. On her walk home, the city lights glimmered on wet pavement. The same streets that had once felt like cages now pulsed with something else, watchful, restless, alive. She paused at the corner where the arrest had happened. The metal of the traffic light gleamed faintly. For a moment, the memory replayed, the cold hood, the officer's sneer, the helplessness. But then she saw it differently. The camera phone lifted, the voice that refused to be silenced, the wave that had carried her here. Maya whispered into the night. You didn't erase me. You revealed me. She turned, shoulders squared, and walked into the glow of the city. Not an ending, a beginning.